Hey everybody, welcome back to Knifefilmism. I'm Ryan.
I'm Drew. Still, we're not dead yet.
Yeah, we been on a bit of a hiatus. I'm sure that
We could claim that we were like recharging our creative batteries and went to like Joshua Tree or something, but no, we literally just work
yeah,
weird jobs that get really crazy during the holidays.
and neither of our schedules really allowed for
Yeah,
this.
schedules don't really match up that often.
We were just talking before we started recording, though. It's probably for the best because we would have become even more derivative than we already were. Now we've had a few months of stuff to catch up on, and that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna talk about stuff that we've watched over the last couple of months, talk about some other media related stuff, and go from there.
Yeah, this is gonna be the boring catch up episode. That probably be more interesting because it's not structured.
All right, Drew, did you see anything good over the last few months?
Well, recently I watched the Sicario sequel.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And wasn't completely put off by it, but had suspicions reaffirmed that kept me away from seeing it in theaters. It doesn't have it has a good enough aping of the style of the original, but just like we had talked about, you can't really make a Boba Fett movie and have it be compelling because Boba Fett doesn't work as the pivotal character.
And beyond that, you've got Roger Deakins was the original cinematographer. Yeah. You've got Denis Villeneuve as the original director. How do you...
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah. And a story that just wasn't nearly as...
Is needing for expansion or completion. It wasn't terrible. It kind of dwelled on the same themes as the first one. Cartel's bad, but you get to see more of how the sausage is made in terms of the U.S. government doing extra legal stuff in order to combat drug trafficking, which is fun, but like you didn't need to do a sequel to a really good movie that never really should have had a sequel.
Yeah.
Del Toro and Josh Brolin are still good as those characters. It's just you don't need this. It's entertaining. It's worth watching if you were like, how did this turn out? Because it's not garbage. It's not abject trash, but I mean it's nowhere near as good as the original. And there is a little bit of unfortunate action movie cliche that really is what turns me off near the very end of the movie. And at that point I was like, oh, fuck off with this.
All right. Speaking of fuck off with this, I recently watched Venom.
Oh, no.
I think the best thing that I can say about Venom is that
Tom Hardy is still awesome.
Yeah, I lost no respect for Tom Hardy. I thought he was great in it, and all the talk that you heard about all of his favorite scenes being cut, I really do think that this is a case of something that got ruined in editing and ruined by, what was it, Sony?
Yeah, Sony Pictures.
It wasn't exactly boring. It was just very basic comic book.
You got what you expected out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be a perfect hangover movie if you don't really want to pay attention to anything and just want some mindless dribble in the background with some decent acting.
With somebody you
parts.
enjoy watching.
Yeah, I still like watching Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Did you see Vice?
No, I did finally, unfortunately, watch Justice League.
Oh. Okay.
Holy shit! What a pile.
I
think when I texted you that I watched these two movies, I said I think I saw the death of superhero movies.
We'll get back to that. Keep that in mind for fodder for a later episode because I'd love to dedicate a whole episode just to us talking about that.
I want there to be a Plinkett review of Justice League. It could be a 3-part review.
And he would never run out of material.
No.
The editing alone could be an entire Plinkett video.
You know what? The just to keep this succinct so that we can just go with what we're trying to talk about and not get derailed with this, you could really see that Marvel dodged a huge bullet getting rid of Whedon before Whedon infected everything.
That's an interesting point.
Because Whedon
really didn't think
Whedon
much
is
about...
essentially because unfortunately, Scott Snyder?
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder's daughter killed herself like in the middle of filming, and he basically dropped the movie. And I would say the rumor is that that movie is basically a Joss Whedon movie. It really shows. It really shows.
But you can tell which parts were him and which director did which part. You can go through and actually say, hey, this is this person.
You know what? Person. You know what? Here, we'll end it with this. You know what it looks like? It looks like somebody like wiki how to make a homemade pizza, and then they're looking at the wiki. They're like computers on their lap, and they're looking at like the finished like nice pizza with like little basil flakes and like cupped pepperoni and everything. And what they made was like a piece of bread with like an American single and ketchup, and like they're like, the fuck did I do wrong? Like I made it look and sound like what it's supposed to, like cheese, meat, and tomato sauce, but what the hell? But enough. But yeah, those are the two most recent like features that I've seen. I am interested, although I feel like we're sliding into the khaki zone with Marvel Cinematic. We've talked about this before, and the one little like jumpstart was how good Infinity War was, and hopefully Endgame is just as good, and it looks like it will be. But I know we're sliding into the khaki zone with Captain Marvel, but I am interested because I think they're going to do a Manchurian Candidate plot, and that seems very intriguing to me.
We'll see, because as intriguing as it is, as Black Panther showed us, no matter how good your potential plot is, it's going to end up punching something that's CG.
That's true, which is definitely going to happen.
And we'll talk more about that later this episode. But Vice. I, in general, hate McKay. As a director, I think his movies are just not funny. So when I saw that he was the one directing Vice, I was a little bit on the fence, but it's Christian Bale, and he's doing his whole Christian Bale thing. And I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
McKay, I think, should forego making his garbage comedies and just focus on this type of satire. And it's not quite satire, but there were some satirical, over-the-top elements to it.
So you're saying him doing a
serious movie,
a more serious movie, but his comedic background,
yes,
made what was the comedic elements that much more effective, because he knows how to set this stuff up.
But if it was straight comedy, I wouldn't have liked it. It is a biopic, but there are some incredible directing choices that I did not see coming, and I don't want to spoil any of that. But what's his name? Carell. Yeah, Carell as Rumsfeld should have got a Best Supporting Actor nod. I know that,
but no, we have to have important pictures getting Oscar nominations.
But Rockwell got a Best Supporting nod for playing Bush. As great as he was, I kind of wish that Carell would have gotten the nod for playing Rumsfeld. It was the role he was born to play. It's an actor that I really don't care either way about.
Foxcatcher?
No.
Foxcatcher is the like seminal, like, holy crap, like Steve Carell can do like drama. Do you know what Foxcatcher's story is?
No, I know nothing about this. I've never heard of this.
Foxcatcher's story is the story of, I want to say it's the son of the DuPont fortune. He was like obsessed with funding the American Olympic wrestling program and went insane and shot one of the trainers.
Okay.
It's a great movie. It's Channing Tatum plays, because what it is it's two brothers. The one brother is basically a trainer, and Channing Tatum is the actual like Olympic hopeful. And it's just a really good slow burn, like,
drama.
Steve Carell being really good at being, like, not menacing, but just deranged.
So if Steve Carell was in Whiplash.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, that's kind of...
You gotta watch it. It was a big thing, like, a handful of years ago, and I watched it when I was like, oh, I get why this is a big deal.
What else did I watch? I know it's up on Netflix. I know you're going to watch it, but Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I'm not expecting anything out of it.
Quality-wise, technically, I guess you would say better than Venom. Mm-hmm. But I was definitely more bored with Ant-Man and the Wasp than I was with Venom.
Ant-Man's not a fun movie, even with Paul Rudd. It's just It's just boilerplate. It's Marvel boilerplate.
You know what it reminds me of? You've got an amazing, not really amazing, but a more adult comedian in. Oh, why am I blanking on his name? from Full House, the dad.
Oh, Bob Saget.
Bob Saget, thank you.
Yeah, you've got the restraining or the
you've got
just restraint on somebody who can do a lot more even with the material they're given.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry if Bob Saget ever hears this that I totally blanked on his name. I actually think he's quite funny, but neither here nor there. Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp I thought was just I didn't know
and
it was
a log to the fire. Lord of the Marvel Universe.
I didn't know that it was possible to exceed the level of mediocrity of the first Ant-Man.
It's just it's one of those things that's like a testament to just Marvel can just they can have an average movie and still force out a sequel and still get gains on it. Like it's not difficult for them.
And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. But
nobody Captain Marvel's going to do well regardless of content because it's Marvel's first solo female picture. It's going to do well.
And it's Marvel. It's going to do well anyway.
Exactly. That's beside the point. But because it's Marvel's first.
Oh yeah, this is a perfect storm of
like DC, who can't get out of their own way, did a good job with Wonder Woman
for a great 3/4 of the movie. But
yeah.
What else? Oh, Bandersnatch.
Yes.
You watched Bandersnatch?
Yes, I did.
Okay. There's a little too much there to unpack for this conversation for a recap. So let's put a pin in that one and we'll come back to that. So what else has happened in the world of movies? The Oscars. Well, the Oscars haven't happened yet, but the nominations are out. And this, I don't even know where to start. There are so many amazing movies that I think this is the year that's going to go down as the year that the Oscars were seen for their true colors.
The Oscars finally truly jumped the shark.
Yeah, because movies that, if we were really judging it based on their own merits, should have been nominated, acting jobs that should have been nominated, have all been overshadowed by them, going back to some more obscure movies that nobody has seen.
So there will be limited showings the week before so that the casual fans could actually see this stuff.
Mixed in with, well, let's just say it, Black Panther.
We're not racist. This movie doesn't deserve nominations.
No, you can go back and listen to our original podcast on that. But quick recap is, let's bring up some great topics like colonialism and its legacy and isolationism and set up that plot only to devolve into punching a CGI rhinoceros. There's nothing artful about this movie, but we've already done an episode on the new Oscar category that was proposed.
That apparently was rejected because of backlash.
So now you've got this situation where we even said back then that they were adding this category just for the sake of trying to get recognition for a movie like Black Panther. And part of that is probably because of Disney lobbying.
Yeah.
I will put money on that. It's because we all know how the Oscars work and the for your consideration campaigns and all that. Disney wanted Black Panther to get something. And the the Academy decided, hey, we don't want to lose any more credibility than we already have by adding this new category. But you've already lobbied us.
You've already given us enough gift baskets.
Yeah. So we'll
slide it into a category.
Yeah. And you know what? If it would have gotten a nomination for something like costume design, isn't that what Suicide Squad won for?
Oh my god, I think it did.
It won for something.
Couldn't have been cinematography because somebody was smoking.
Jesus.
Cutting that film.
And I think earlier when we were talking about, when you said you finally saw Justice League, I was mixing up Justice League and Suicide Squad in my head.
They're both just bad trips.
Yeah, I'm at the point where it's really tough for me to distinguish between certain parts of those movies.
I kind of want DC to keep making this stuff because it's just so bad that it's endlessly entertaining in that sense.
Did you see Aquaman?
Oh God, no! I don't have 4 hours to dedicate to Jason Momoa and not being able to act.
So where were we? Oh, Oscar categories. I am borderline boycotting this year, even watching. I love watching I love watching the Oscars because I like seeing the people behind the scenes get recognized for
Yeah, but
the
more and
technicals.
more of that gets pushed to the pre-show that you just read about and never see.
And this year, I think more than any other year, it's that.
Yeah.
Stuff like Best Adapted Screenplay. I was thinking, if nothing else, Annihilation has to get at least a nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. And you've got Alex Garland, who he got at least one nomination for Ex Machina, right?
I think so.
I'd have to look that up, but it's not like Alex Garland is a stranger to Upper Hollywood, and for Annihilation to have gotten absolutely nothing, nothing, not a mention, not a nomination,
In a year that felt pretty much devoid of mainstream cinema having anything really stand out.
culturally relevant,
Yeah.
yeah. I really thought, oh, okay, this is gonna be that movie that everyone suddenly remembers around Oscar time and maybe gets a nod or two,
Yeah.
and nothing. And when I saw that, and then cinematography, I know you didn't see Mandy, but I absolutely loved it. I was really hoping that Nicolas Cage might get a nod for for Best Actor because I looked at the Best Actor field and nobody was. I really liked Christian Bale as Dick Cheney. He was great, but at no point did I ever feel like this is a career defining moment for
Yeah.
him. So, thoughts? I've been talking a lot.
No, it just well, like I just said, it feels like it's a year that I even like that I haven't seen anything stand out or obvious Oscar baity. Like in years past, you've always got like, oh, that's just gunning for trying to get top like Best Picture or some element of Oscar recognition. I don't know. I feel like we're as us early millennials are starting to take over as the dominant species. I'm starting to feel like the Rotten Tomatoes score is going to be more important than Oscars in the future, just because it's an aggregate of critical reviewers and you've got the secondary of the fan review that's a more authentic than a group of people who get screener copies and lobbying to try to put other pictures over.
And I'm tragically to the point where I have found movie reviewers who I trust the opinions of, and that's usually who I go to for whether or not I'm going to see something. Oh, it looks good.
You know
maybe...
what? You know what I think would be awesome, and Netflix should jump on this idea is maybe if Netflix were to marry with like Rotten Tomatoes, and then offer as a new category that would be under your top picks bar, like a critic recommendation, so that stuff that does get eventually nominated that nobody sees would be available to us early enough to be like, well, it's got like this much in terms of the critical review, and it's free for me to watch, so I'll watch it, and then maybe people will actually gain some culture.
Yeah, because I'm falling into a trap though where there are so few reviewers who I trust the opinion of that I'm sort of pigeonholing myself into, oh, okay, did this reviewer or that reviewer like this movie? And I'm not getting the whole wider picture.
Yeah.
Because most of that wider picture is who can yell the loudest. And
a lot of critical response is more confirmation bias. It's more, yeah, I knew that movie was good. It's got a good score. That's why I liked it. Or I was not wrong to like that movie. It's highly rated or whatever. But
so Filmstruck died. I never had a Filmstruck. Filmstruck was basically a streaming service for a ton of older classic movies.
Okay.
That otherwise couldn't get. I knew what it was. I didn't have a subscription. I always regretted not. It was just one of those things in the back of my mind. Did it have a rotation
structure like Netflix and all the other ones have, or was it basically stuff kind of not necessarily public domain, but stuff that just didn't?
Yeah, there was some
slot on stuff that's a little bit more contemporary based.
And older stuff that no studio really has the rights to put out at this point. So you may not have had any other way to get it. These are movies that might not have been made since early VHS. And how do you watch these movies? And that's what Filmstruck was. Now, the Criterion Network is now coming out, and I will be jumping on early with that. I think it's $10 a month.
Yeah.
But just in case you want to go back and watch something a little bit older, I'm not spending $10 a month anymore on MoviePass, so so I'm going to take that $10 a month, and I'll probably end up getting a Criterion Channel subscription. MoviePass. Any final thoughts on?
God, no.
I
still have my email saved in case they try to screw me on the non-renewal.
Same. I killed my MoviePass subscription in early November, I believe.
We've already talked ad nauseum about it, but just the idea of feeling like we were the test group before they really revealed that they wanted to offer fucking nothing for $10 a month.
And when I say nothing, I mean that in the literal sense of I went for weeks opening the app every day around
just to see
noon.
what was being offered, just to see if it just to get a little chuckle in terms of
and nothing. There's nothing available in the entire area. It would be noon and it would say there are no more screenings for today. What am I paying for?
Yeah.
So that's dead. We can put that to rest. What else is going on? What else have you seen? Movies, TV.
The only thing I've watched recently was I caught up on the most recent season of Man in the High Castle. If you're at all interested, it's worth a watch. The first season's pretty good.
I'm halfway through season 2.
Granted, you gotta think of it as this was like a small, what was it, Vonnegut book? So there's a lot of expansion and extrapolation. A lot of it is just not original content,
which is
based
okay.
on a theme. So at a certain point, you're gonna have people who are like, "No, I just like the original book," which is entirely fine because this is grown beyond that. It's not a case of adaptation versus original in the sense that Game of Thrones is, where they're concurrent storylines.
Oh, God.
But no, it's interesting. There are certain things in season 3 that kind of that to use the cliche do kind of jump the shark, but there's enough going on. The show is interesting to me though because I feel like in a way it both does and doesn't do ensemble cast right because you really don't feel an affinity for who the main character is supposedly as opposed to other characters. So I'm wondering if they might in the future shift the focus more to
some of the other side
characters because it does at times feel like it's less focused because the original intended lead, while she's a good actress and the character is good, she becomes a little too Mary Sue to where you're starting to think that not to a really crazy degree because again there's enough focus on other characters, but season 3 it does focus more on that. But it is interesting in that sense. It feels like it really is an ensemble show.
I don't remember when The Americans ended. So I'll just say if you haven't had a chance to watch The Americans, it was one of television's crowning achievements.
And one of the few examples other than, The Shield and Sons of Anarchy of FX actually finishing a series before canceling it too early.
Or too late. Like Sons of Anarchy, it was canceled too late. By the last,
I didn't even watch it. My parents watched it and loved it. But,
it was terrible.
The Shield is a crowning example of one of the greatest television experiences of all time.
And I'm going to put The Americans.
Is there a Blu-ray yet?
No, because they were having an issue with
with conversion because it was shot on traditional film.
Yeah, and it was shot in such a way that it was supposed to look grainy, which was fine.
Oh, I
2002.
Granted, I was watching it in college on a tube television. For you children who may be listening, there's no way there are children listening, but we didn't always have HD flat screens.
And now that we do,
it didn't really ruin everything.
No. If you shot it to look like it was supposed to be gritty, like an episode of Cops. Remember that show?
Oh,
and that's still going.
No, now it's live PD. I would know because my father watches it.
Oh, okay. Beyond that, rest in peace to the Marvel Netflix verse.
Do you think this is we're gearing up to like do new stuff on the Disney platform, or is this a declining viewership, declining critical response? We're done with it.
Not that either. I think this is simply a case of Netflix cutting their losses. I mean, you look at the situation. and they already knew that they were on a clock with Disney with their contracts on 4 of the 5 characters, the Punisher being the exception. And I think they just didn't want to have anything to do with it. Why deal with Disney if you don't have to? You've already had your shows. You already can see trouble coming down the pipe. Why put up with any of the hassle of needing to deal with a giant like Disney when you know that you don't have any long-term prospects with these characters?
Yeah.
Because season 3 of Daredevil, I absolutely loved. I thought it was one of the best of the Marvel Netflix verse shows.
Uh-huh. Well, Daredevil was always the most solid of the ones that they put out.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I understand Luke Cage getting axed because Luke Cage season 2 was at times almost unwatchable. Although they did have an excellent setup for season 3, and I'm a little disappointed that I never got to see where that went. With how bad Iron Fist was in season 1, and knowing that it got canceled after a season 2 that wasn't even that well reviewed, I decided just to skip that entirely. Jessica Jones, I think was only good because of David Tennant. Because after watching season 2, and when you switch the villain up, it's not even the actress that played Jessica Jones.
Have we talked at length at least about Jessica Jones? I mean, not like at length. We could do like a 5-minute segment, but
no, I don't think so.
I always had a problem with it. Not in terms of casting or the tonal choices made for it, but they were given an easily adaptable material and they didn't do it justice. Okay, I have the Alias Omnibus, the original series.
Okay.
It's basically serialized. It has an overarching plot of her and the Purple Man, but it's serialized because she's a private detective. She takes on cases to pay her bills. Why would you not do a serialized show with an overarching plot? And that was the original problem people had with the first season was, yeah, it's great, but by like the 15th mention of Purple Man, you're kind of over it, and you still have 3 episodes left.
Mm-hmm. That
was the problem. It was we really want to get the through line of this being the plot, but like you could have had some of those side stories and done some fun stuff with, with hero abilities and stuff like they did in the comic. But they just didn't take the opportunity to adapt that aspect of it, and that was kind of a shame.
My issue with it, I never read the comics.
Uh-huh.
And now that you're saying that, yeah, I would have much rather seen it done that way.
There was an entire like mini arc that could have been maybe 2 episodes of a 13-episode season where a girl ran away and her parents hire a private detective to find her, and it turns out she's a mutant, so she ran away.
Oh, okay. Well,
granted, mutants are not like maybe
there.
now that Fox is being absorbed. But you could have had, a powered kid who ran away because they were afraid of their parents knowing what was going on.
That's pretty.
That could have been a 2 episode that could have been built into Jessica's. Hey, I didn't have powers always, and then stuff happened, stuff like that. But they just, I don't know. It was too focused, too laser focused on its main plot.
And I think that's largely because David Tennant was so great.
Oh yeah, you get Tennant in a role where he's really not hamming it up, but like. He's putting the effort in and enjoying playing the character.
Kind of like...
You're going to keep him on screen as long as you can.
Tom Hardy in Peaky Blinders.
Yes.
He steals every scene that he's in. Season 2, there were aspects that I did like. I felt that little things like soundtrack choice, they really played up the old school film noir feel that you really can get out of a show like that.
Uh-huh.
But the supporting cast is just not... I don't know. There was nothing that had me compelled to watch more. Like the actress that plays Jessica Jones' mother, spoilers, whatever. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought maybe I just didn't like her as an actress, but then I saw her in Ozark season 2 and thought she was amazing, which leads me to believe that it's just how that character was
just poorly
exactly
defined.
So. I don't know. Without David Tennant in that show, I hate to say it, but he comes back for one scene or for one episode in a series of flashbacks, and it's easily
you're like, oh, there's what I liked about the first season,
and it's easily the best episode in the entire second season.
Yeah.
So, and then what was the other? Oh, Daredevil. Daredevil was worth it just for the increasingly long hallway fights. The single take shots. Season 3, if you haven't seen it, has an 11-minute long fight sequence where he's escaping from a prison.
Oh, I gotta catch up on all of these. I mean,
it's phenomenal.
I mean, even with how good Infinity War was, my Marvel interest was burned out. I mean, I'm somebody who bought comics weekly for about 4 or 5 years, and it just came to a precipice after a certain point. And I was just like, you know what? I can't even finish season 1 of Luke Cage. It's not interesting to me. But no, I don't know. Not with the time, I should go back, but I don't know. Staring blankly at the wall is interesting too.
So what have we talked about? The Oscars. We've talked about a few movies that came out, a few TV shows we watched. Death of Movie Pass. I mean, it's still technically kicking, but whatever.
It's being smothered.
And there are a ton
of angry user base
and an angry mob of attorney generals who think that maybe they
like link everybody.
There are some. There's at least one state AG that's going after them,
trying to class action them.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Not that we'll ever see any money back. And honestly, I got
it's the principle of the thing.
Technically, if you look at the amount of movies that I saw over the whole runtime and the amount that I paid for it, I ended up just basically paying for those movies. Yeah. So whatever. Cut my losses.
Game of Thrones is coming up real soon.
April. Yeah. And I'm not excited.
I've had that that blissful, I haven't been paying any attention to it. Like I haven't been on top of it, so it'll be like one of those like found money situations where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot this back. And I finally divorced The Walking Dead a long time ago. A long time ago. Before whatever season they're on now. And it was like right before they announced that like every principal actor was trying to leave the show. So I kind of want to like delve into what's been going on because I'm like, how are they trying to make a shit sandwich out of this?
But they're still going.
Because it's AMC, so AMC is going to try to like tell you that a turd in a bun is a hot dog.
But they just announced another season.
There you go.
Speaking of which, I'm a season behind on Better Call Saul.
I haven't even bothered watching it.
I'm ashamed that I missed this past season. I'm just going to sit down and binge it all one day.
I watched a chunk, I think, of the first season, and I was like, it's... Odenkirk's always been good.
I really like the show. It actually picks up quite a bit a couple seasons in. True Detective.
I have not watched season 3. Is that any good?
Yes. I'm one episode behind. I've seen the first 3 or 4.
Is it back to... Not necessarily the tone, but kind of like the tone, I guess it's the tone of season 1.
The best comparison that I can make is the original Indiana Jones trilogy, where the first one is a classic serial adventure where they're going after a famous artifact with the Ark.
And then the second one is we've established the characters, let's do whatever the hell we want to do with them.
Because it was always supposed to be something more of almost an anthology series before anthology series got big.
Yeah.
Where, okay, we already did this setting and this tone. Now let's go do something completely different. And there were different TV shows of that type back when George Lucas was growing up. And the idea of doing, okay, well, maybe a sci-fi one, maybe a whatever, and just having the character of Indiana Jones as the only connecting fiber was a great idea. But the backlash to the second movie, Temple of Doom, made them go back for the third movie and basically start hitting it beat for beat. So we've got now another more traditional Christian iconography, like, oh, now we're going after the Grail instead of the Ark.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. That being said, I love The Last Crusade. There are times where I think it may be my favorite. But that's what I'm seeing
just for the sake of like.
But that's what I'm seeing with True Detective. You had your
experimental season, and now you're kind of going back to formula.
Yes, exactly. Sorry for that long-winded explanation, but that's exactly what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And because I'm gonna throwing out Crystal Skull. If you count it as a trilogy, like it's a 4-movie franchise. We get that. We're not like deluded, but like thinking of the original 3, it's one of the few third parts in any trilogy that I liked the most was Indiana Jones.
Mahershala Ali in this is phenomenal. He is easily as compelling as McConaughey's character. He may not be as witty or quotable, but do you know the plot of the third?
I have no. I don't spoil me on anything because I do want to watch it. It was very much like Game of Thrones. It was they weren't going to do a third because a lot of people hated the second, and then they were like, no, we're gonna greenlight a third, and then it was like, oh, the third's already coming out, and people aren't saying horrible things, so it must be okay.
I'm going to give you the briefest of this is the first 10 minutes of the show sort of synopsis. Essentially, it takes place over 3 timelines. 1980 is when the crime occurs.
Okay.
1990 is when they reopen the case. 2015 is when Mahershala Ali's character is being interviewed about the original case, but he has early stages of dementia. And because they're going back over
so
these...
you've got unreliable narrator for all the flashback sequences.
Potentially, yes. And there are a couple of editing choices that really make you question how reliable those early ones are, how much of it is objective, how much of it is just how he's remembering it. You don't know. At this point in the season, you're not sure.
That already sounds... I liked season 2. We talked about the season 2 was my introduction, and then I went back and watched 1, and I'm like, I like season 2, but I get why everybody was disappointed by it after having watched the first season. Yeah. But no, that cliff notes is the interview aspect was really good in season 1, and season 2 being you're learning as the characters learn, kind of hurt the true detective aspect of it.
Yeah, and this one it really lets them lean into themes like just unfinished business, like late in life, looking back, what did I leave undone? What is my legacy? And having the advantage or disadvantage of knowing that he is on a timer and having unanswered questions from what is the seminal moment in his life, this case, and just really diving into all of those themes. It's tough to watch at times with him having his dementia issues. Yeah, it is gut-wrenching at times.
That sounds good because like they think about it, season 2 they made the misconception that it was the mystery of the Yellow King that everybody was interested in. It was more so the characters in season 1.
Yeah.
So season 2 leaned too heavily in the like, what's the plot? What's the big question? It's like the characters in season 2 were interesting enough, but it was like, no, the partners were what was interesting about season 1. The plot was interesting in the end, but like it was just the fiber that tied together 2 completely different people.
And you do get a lot of that feel of, okay, these are the partners, and this is really what the story is about. Not so much the crime, but how these detectives are dealing with it.
Good.
There's also a very quick Easter egg that shows that these shows might be
in the same universe.
Yeah, if you look very quickly during the interview, the interviewer's laptop is pulled up, and there's a headline from an old newspaper about the crimes from season 1.
It's fine because there's nothing like world breaking in terms of
not at all.
Like that being something.
But the idea of a shared universe is also it opens up other narrative possibilities too.
Hopefully they don't dive into that. Just the idea of like the real world, lots of crazy stuff can happen that's completely disconnected.
Exactly, but I like that. Just I don't really care about continuity. I've got a Mad Max tattoo. I don't care about continuity, but tying your universe together through little things is, I don't know. It can work to your advantage.
It's cozy.
Yes, if you
and
do
not
it right.
in the negative aspect of it. It's just like it's cool to think that like all these cool stories are not concurrent timeline wise, but like have happened
in the same.
Because in the real world, lots of crazy shit has happened. It's completely disconnected. So yeah, it does add a little bit of cool. Like, I'm glad I stuck with this franchise because not that you want some crossover or anything, but like it's just cool to think that like all the investment I've put into it is being reflected back. Like, thanks for watching. Like, in that aspect.
Yeah.
Thanks for knowing what we're putting here. That type of thing.
Exactly. Anything else before we wrap up our catch-up episode?
No, not really.
So I think we're both in agreement, though, that of everything we've talked about, the next episode should probably be just diving into Bandersnatch.
Yes, yeah, just because of what it is, which we'll go into in that episode. Yeah, our sensibilities is as people who may listen to us know, it definitely fits into that. So,
all right, fair enough. For anyone who did decide to come back because you got a notification on your YouTube channel that channel you haven't been to in a while because we haven't put anything out is back. Thank you, welcome back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we haven't. Life got in the way. We haven't really done.
No, I'm sorry.
One of those. Oh no, we just don't want to do this anymore. It's just stuff gets in the way.
I'm sorry that they came back and actually listened to this.
Even better.
I'm not apologizing. We have lives. We don't do this professionally. We do this for fun. I'm sorry that you just had to listen to 40 minutes of this bullshit. So, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with an episode on Bandersnatch.